Mike Henning here. I've got another little free banjo lesson for you today. This time we're going to break down a J.D. Crowe lick heard in the song Ocean of Diamonds on a classic Jimmy Martin recording. This is one of those licks when I first heard it, I thought it was so cool, and I probably played it way too much when I first learned it, and then someone finally, pulled me aside and said, okay, we get it, you know the lick, tone it down a little bit. But this is one, it's just classic bluegrass banjo in 3/4. I'm going to break down the lick, show you a bunch of variations on the lick, and then show you how you can move it around. It's a movable F-shaped lick. And if you like the lesson, you can subscribe at the end and get a free tab sent to you. Alright, here we go. Alright, let's start breaking down this J.D. Crowe Ocean of Diamonds lick. And since it's kind of an intermediate to advanced lick, I'm going to assume you know the two basic movable chord shapes and you're familiar moving between them. So the F shape and the sometimes called the D shape. So those are the two shapes we're going to use, mainly the F shape for this lick, but I'm not going to go over just how to do those shapes in this lesson because it's kind of more intermediate or advanced. So if you need a little more practice on that, start that first before you dive into this lesson. Okay? And we're going to do this in the key of F because that's where they recorded it, but I'll show you how to move it around to different keys as well. So we're actually going to start up on the B flat chord. It's our 4 chord in the key of F. So up at the 8th fret, I'm going to do my F shape up at the 8th fret. And let's just start by getting the fingers we're going to use for this lick. So we're going to keep our pinky up on the 8th fret of the highest string, the 1st string. And we're going to practice using our 1st and 3rd finger, so our index and ring finger. Our index is going to take all the 6th frets, and our 3rd finger is going to take the rest of the 8th fret. So I'm just going to walk around those notes. I'm just going to use my thumb of my right hand. So first, just get comfortable moving those back around. Really important you use the same 2 fingers so when you move it around to different positions, it'll feel like the same lick. So I'm just moving those around, not in any particular order. As long as you end on the 8th fret with your 3rd finger, it'll sound like a lick. I'm also practicing keeping my pinky down. That's the position we need to use. So now let me break down the lick, and then I'll show you a bunch of variations. So we're going to start with that 8th fret 4th string. Then we're going to hit the 8th fret of the 1st string. So those are quarter notes. So it's 1, 2. And then this is probably the trickiest part of the lick. We're going to do a little triplet hammer run, and you're going to go from the 6th fret on the 4th string to the 8th fret on the 4th string with a hammer on. Use your 1st and 3rd finger, and then you're going to quickly move your 1st finger up to the 6th fret of the 3rd string and hit that with your index finger of your right hand. So your right hand, is doing thumb index there. You just have to do it kind of quick. It's triplet. So you do the quarter notes. Let's do that a few times. Okay, so do that a few times, as many times as you need to. And then the rest of the lick is you're going to bring your 3rd finger up to the 8th fret of the 3rd string, and you're going to go. So I bend that note up 3 times. I'm hitting that with my thumb. And then the last time I actually bend it down. And then I hit my index finger on the 6th fret, and then back to the 8th fret of the 4th string. So the whole lick sounds like this. It's kind of hard to do slow. Let me do it a little faster. And then you can do a thumb, pinch, pinch. Actually, in the song, if you want to practice it in the song, then he walks up to a C chord at the 10th fret. So it's something like that. And you'd have to, you know, depending on which version you do, this is one of the Oceans of Diamonds is one of those songs where lots of people will sing it with different timing, depending on how much space they put between the vocal lines, but that's the basic lick. So let's practice a little bit more in context, and then I'll show you the other kind of famous lick for this song. So we're going to start in an F. A roll I like to do is I hit the thumb on the 4th string, and then you do middle, 1st string, and then you come down and you do 3, 2, 1, T-I-M. So it's 1. That's a good one for this song, so you do. Now we're up to our B flat, you start the lick right away. And then he slides up to a high F, and then I'll show you the other lick right there. It's actually very similar, just up in a high F position. So that's the move. So do the lick. That one's slightly different. What I'm doing up there is, instead of moving my, instead of doing the hammer on to start it, something like that, I'm doing that roll that I just said, and then I'm doing, I'm keeping my index finger on the, what is that, the 13th fret of the 2nd string, right where it would normally be in my F-shaped chord. I'm moving my 3rd finger down to the 15th fret of the 3rd string, and I'm bending that note up while bouncing off that 13th fret on the 2nd string. So I'm doing thumb, index, back and forth, 3rd string, 2nd string. Like that. So you bend it twice with that thumb index, and then you bend it back down, and then you move your index finger up to the 13th fret of the 3rd string, excuse me, and then back down to the 15th fret of the low string. Sounds like this. So that's the main riff they use a lot in that song. So just practice that a few times. It's supposed to kind of stand out. It's, you know, you can do it kind of aggressively, I would call it. You know, you don't have to kind of, it's not going to sound pretty. You know, it's supposed to kind of stand out. So a couple other ways you can do that. The B flat lick is the original recording does, which is cool. You could also go. That's also another cool lick. So you do that same hammer on to start it, and then you bend that note up 8th fret on the 3rd string, and then you're actually going to bring your 1st finger all the way up to the 6th fret of the 1st string. So you have to take your pinky off, and then you bend it back down. So you go. That one, the bend is longer. Instead of doing the 3 short, you do basically a longer bend. That's a cool one. You can also do it, same thing. And instead of doing the, if you don't like that 1st finger, 6th fret, you can keep your pinky down. That's another variation. So you go. More importantly than any of the licks is the timing, so keep the timing going. And really important are those first 2 quarter notes. So right here. So I'm going thumb, middle. That really sets up the lick. It also gives you time to get your hand in position. It gives you time to give that that hammer on. Also, more importantly, is listen to the vocal line. The lick is right after the vocal, so it's out under the stars. So So it's really cool how Crow or whoever's playing banjo, you know, in a song like this is you're waiting till right after the vocal line. So that's really important. Is notice how he's using, and you can look at my tab that I'm going to have with the lesson. He's using that space until the vocal line is done. So like that. So that's a really cool lick. And then up again, same thing up here. It's after a vocal line or after a phrase in the song. So okay. So once you get that lick down, you can move it around wherever you want. Oh yeah, one more variation I'll show you quick before I move it around is if you do that, instead of moving all the way up to the 6th fret of the 1st string, you could also do the 6th fret of the 2nd string. It's very similar to how we were doing it up here. You know, you could do it down here in B flat too. So you got a whole bunch of variations, just basically, you know, just depending on which note you're bending and then bouncing it off a different note. Here, that sounds a little goofy when I do a bunch in a row like that, but think about that. It's a very easy way to get 5 or 6 licks out of, you know, you could go, just mess with the timing. That's a lot of these licks are derived from just playing with the timing of that. And those bends aren't exact science, so you're gonna have to take some time to kind of chase that sound that you're after, and you have to figure out how much pressure to apply and then when to bend it back down. So that's another one. Is again, you can use that 6th fret 2nd string, or okay. So now that we've got the licks down, let's move it around. That's why it's so important to use the same fingers. So let's say I'm in the key of G. That would be over a C chord. It's over our 4 chord, and then you can slide up to your high G. So you can move it around wherever you want. It's an F position lick. Do it in the key of D. So there's a lot of Jimmy Martin songs in 3/4 that use a lot of those licks. Check out a lot of his songs. Drink Up and Go Home, It Takes One to Know One, 20/20 Vision, Ocean of Diamonds. There's a whole bunch of classic banjo licks that work out of those positions. That kind of stuff. And I'll break more of those down in future lessons. But start with this one. So remember, it's the, or, and then it's up on the high F chord. And like any lick, once you get it down, move it around. That'll help solidify it. Remember, use your same left hand fingers and right hand, depending, no matter where you're playing it. It doesn't matter what key you're in. You're not using your 5th string at all, so you can play it in whatever key you want. All right, hopefully that helps you out. Good luck.